きの光に誓って愛と正義の力で戦う星々が味方する因果を守護者たち
Blessed be all my people out there. I hope you're all doing very, very well. And blessed be to all of my new people out there. Hello and welcome. In this video, we are going to be talking all about Neptune going into Aries, as well as a little bit of Pluto in Aquarius, and what this means with these two together in these fire and air sign energies, and what is going to be shifting up when it comes to predicting culture, especially around business and commercial sensibility. But I have a lot to say about these kinds of things because I've always had a knack for predicting culture when it comes to astrology. And of course, for those of you who would like to know, astrology and predicting culture, they kind of go hand in hand, right? That's a very old school astrology subject. And for those of you who know me, you know I'm all about keeping it old school when it comes to everything astrological, paranormal, mystical, magical, and tarot. So we're going to talk about what we need to understand about this era that we are stepping into, what Pluto has already been kind of teasing for the last 2 years since he went into Aquarius, and what we need to understand is going away as well. Neptune and Pluto are both generation indicators or era indicators or sensibility indicators when it comes to culture, when it comes to the populace in astrology. You can always see what's going to be kind of coming into being trendy. You can see what is coming into being in desire, what's in demand. But also, when we have these two make their moves, especially when they move at the same time, we could also see a major clearing or disowning of the era or the sensibility that came prior. And so this is also a really important thing to look at if you are maybe somebody who was building your business or developing your work over the course of the last few years, especially if you kind of built a lot of maybe your profession or your career standing, your career stylings and strategies, or even your own personal business in accordance with what was maybe a big part of what was in the Neptune in Pisces era, 2011 to 2025, or for those of you who maybe got your big steps with the Pluto in Capricorn era of 2008 to 2023, because we are kind of seeing a major disowning and a major dropping of pretty much the way things worked, as well as what did work for anyone kind of especially kind of getting their legs or getting their stride in the late 2010s and also early 2020s. So this is going to be a really important video for a lot of you. That being said, I do also want to let everyone know that if you are watching this in April of 2025, it's time for my annual April sale. And so that means 20% off all readings as well as video reports from me. And so if you'd like to schedule a live call session with me or schedule the delivery of a video report, if that is something you would much prefer, well, head on over to my website, integrativemysticism.com, and use the coupon code. And I can't wait to be working with you. So let's talk a little bit about why we need to be ready and already kind of stepping into these changes in terms of cultural sensibility, business sensibility, and era sensibility. So Neptune is a really good indicator, as I said, of culture in terms of what people can often find gratifying, what people can find inspiring, what people can often find helps them to feel connected, or help them to feel like they are getting the information or getting the inspiration to move, to do things, to change things, to move things, to transform or alter things. Pluto is another generational indicator, and this can often show up where we could see like Pluto generations, what is actually the flavor of how a person may have been exposed to various kinds of media, news, or community, goings-ons based on what was going on at the sign of their times. So when these two change signs, especially when they change signs at the same time, there is an alteration, right? The release of what came before. Now, for a lot of us, it's not necessarily something that feels like we can see that's what's going on right now. This is about getting ready to be ahead of the curve, right? We don't want to rise to the top of our success at the end of a trend, at the end of a fad, and then fall on our faces. That's what this is for. So that's what we've got to think about when we are going through these talks about, again, prosperity and learning how to stay on top of where things are going, getting ahead of the curve. When Neptune was in Pisces, one of the big things that really was attractive to people was this idea of a brand and a community kind of operating in the same space or being the same thing. That was huge, right? Everybody wanted to have a community umbrella under a brand. And so that is kind of how a lot of people learned to build their business, right? They had to turn it into kind of not just a commercial affair, but a culture and a social affair in and of itself. Almost like every single brand was considered to be a social hub, or a space to connect with people, or a place to feel like you belong, or a place to feel like you could relate, or you shared some kind of identity with the brand, or with the work, or with the business that you were exchanging your money with, or your time with. That is not where Neptune in Aries does his thing at all. And so if that has been the way a lot of you have been maybe trying to put yourself out there, advertise yourself, this is a time to kind of, okay, we need to downshift in terms of what we're kind of putting out there now so that we can get ahead with where this is changing next. Neptune in Aries takes us a little bit back, right? In my bigger Neptune in Aries video, I talked about how a lot of Neptune in Aries is kind of a throwback to the late 1800s. And there was this feel of a very strong, for those of you, of course, in the Western world, the very strong Wild West kind of vibe to it. And so what tends to happen when Neptune is in Aries is that we see more of a focus on a bit of an individual space between brand and customer, brand and client. There is a space, there is a boundary, and a strong boundary between the person providing the goods and services or providing the work versus, and not necessarily the feeling of being in a community or under an umbrella or creating a sense of a community or culture around a brand. So it's a huge change away from what has actually been sort of the name of the game, especially throughout the latter half of the 2010s and into the early 2020s. Because Aries is the sign of independence. It's about pioneering. It's about courage, action, boldness, but also about individuality and individuation. And so with Neptune in Aries, what helps to connect is actually the opposite of what we thought helped people to connect in the Neptune in Pisces era. Neptune in Aries is all about, okay, what makes us different from one another is going to give us an understanding of what is complementarian and how we are going to actually connect. A distance, almost like a feeling of being a little bit alien to one another, is going to be what makes the big bucks, what actually inspires commerce, what inspires transactions, what inspires people to get involved. You want people to, go and maybe try you on for size in terms of maybe a class that you're teaching, or you want somebody to, go and stay at your Airbnb, or you want somebody to come and, maybe work on some kind of, joint venture with you. You've got to be able to make it stand out and not feel immediately relatable to people. And you certainly don't want it to look like something that is too vanilla or feel like something that's a cookie cutter, or that it came out of a catalog, or it was something that was just kind of like, again, a poser kind of energy. With Neptune in Aries, there is this kind of throwback a little bit to this discussion of what does and doesn't make a poser. Who is real, who is not real? Who is just pretending to be this business person, or this artist, or this creator, or this provider, or this whatever, versus the real thing. There's a lot more scrutiny involved. And so what helps is to be able to stand out, right? Bringing more soul and character to everything that you do, and making sure that it is not something that is maybe a blank canvas for people to just kind of project whatever they want onto, which is, whether you like how I say it or not, or you like the way I put it or not, is kind of a way people did get, business in especially the 2010s and early 2020s. I'm going to create a perfect, comfortable canvas for whoever is looking at me to think that I can be whatever they want me to be. That was a big part of the Neptune and Pisces era energy. And so it was kind of like, all right, here's the bare bones of all of the boxes to tick, right? In terms of, okay, I got to make sure I'm doing this here. I got to make sure I'm doing this here, tick all the boxes, keywords and all of that, but leave everything else blank so that the customer can kind of reframe or project or create a narrative that feels comfortable for them about the experience of doing any kind of work or transaction with you. Now, I never did that, which made this last 10 years kind of interesting for me. I had a lot of, I did pretty well for myself, but at the same time, it was just not something for me. And so I kind of look at that as I probably could have got bigger if I did, but that was just not something I could do. I'm definitely more of a Neptune and Aries kind of person where I'm kind of like, no, I want you to see me, not project onto me what you think I'm supposed to be because of what you've seen other people do or what you see other, astrologers talk like, or what you hear other tarot readers say. Like, we're not all the same. That is a very Neptune in Aries thing. If you want to grow, you got to bring your true character, your true soul to your brand. You don't hide behind your brand, and you don't create a brand that is basically just kind of like the generic catalog, let's just compete to see who has the nicest stuff kind of vibe. Otherwise, that's really going to hurt you. And we'll talk about that in a little bit as to why it's going to hurt you after we talk a little bit about Pluto. Pluto is already beginning to engage with Neptune. Neptune's first few steps into Aries, he's already started to build up on this really strong sextile to Pluto from Aries to Aquarius. And Neptune and Pluto actually do play fairly well together. It's just that they have a way of making some waves when they do work together. And what happens with Pluto in Aquarius and what he's been all about, what he's been building up to, because Pluto tends to shift up in gear very, very slowly, is that there is this big departure in terms of what we could call, again, cultural sensibility from comfort and feeling at home in uniformity and moving into more of that Aquarian kind of vibe of, all right, what does set me apart? And so that has been something I've observed as well, looking at, again, what's going on with business, what's going on with people, observing my own clients and customers, my own base. Things are starting to grow where people are setting themselves apart from everyone else in their field. If every one of you is trying to say, start a podcast or start a content, or start a channel, or you are trying to start a business, whether it's online or brick and mortar, pay attention to where maybe some of the steps that you took or that you're tempted to take might just be trying to follow the uniformity model, right? I'll give you an example. If there is sort of a tick box list, if there is kind of like the focus group tick box of what everyone needs to kind of bring to the table and show, and how everyone's supposed to talk, and how everyone is supposed to say this, what is going to get people interested, what's going to get clients and customers in the door, what's going to aggregate this, what's going to get this going, that's going to be working against you now. It may have helped you before when Pluto was in Capricorn, because when Pluto was in Capricorn, it was kind of a throwback to the 80s where there was this sort of vibe of, all right, we are looking to see who is the best at doing the same thing as everyone else, right? Everyone does the same thing, everyone talks the same, everyone kind of creates very similar themes or very similar styles, very similar fonts. Everything is going to be the same, and we're just going to see who has the best of all the same. Pluto going into Aquarius is kind of like, what sets you apart? What sets you apart from the other auto shop? What character, again, kind of like Neptune and Aries, what character does your shop have that the other auto shop doesn't have? What's the personality? What's the soul? What is there? Don't hide behind your brand anymore. You're really going to mess it all up because it is going to hurt you. There is going to be a consequence for it. Neptune going into Aries and Pluto going into Aquarius is bringing us back into a very similar callback year For those of you who remember back in the mid-90s, that was when Neptune was going into Aquarius, and then we also had Pluto going into Sagittarius, or Pluto in Sagittarius, I should say. And there was this big, there was kind of this saying like, that's so 80s, that's so 80s. And it was kind of a pejorative, right? It was like, no, we are disowning the 80s. Come out of the 80s and into the 90s. Stop doing things like you did in the 80s. We might not say that's so 2010s or that's so 10s, but that's going to be the cultural sensibility. So coming out of that, and also letting yourself be, again, standing out, rough around the edges. It's going to be a huge deal. What you can do to set yourself apart, what makes you kooky and weird, is actually going to be a testament to your authenticity, right? It used to hurt, and believe me, it did hurt me sometimes, especially in the 2010s, because back then people didn't like to see stuff like this. Even though I've been practicing since, the late 90s, people didn't like to see all of the stuff that basically is the roots of my practice and the roots of tarot and astrology anyway. People didn't want to see that. They wanted the comfortable modern stuff. They really wanted to kind of feel a little bit more like they were getting what was kind of processed for them. And now things are changing. It's going in another direction. Now they're kind of like, I don't want somebody who just basically looks like a stencil model of everybody who decided they wanted to try and do a tarot thing. I want somebody who's like lived the life. I want somebody who lives the life. And that's what you want to do when it comes to how you're putting yourself out there, advertising yourself, and also at the same time making sure it's honest and authentic. Neptune and Pluto together can also be very, very powerful revealers, right? Because Neptune is the planet of inspiration. It can be a planet of illusions as well, but Pluto is all about secrets and uncovering secrets. So you really want to be okay with more vulnerability, more transparency, and also at the same time, not presenting yourself or your work as something that you are trying to fake until you make it. That is going to hurt you really, really badly. The more you can set yourself apart, the better you are going to be. The more uniqueness in your character, the more that is going to help distinguish you from other people in your field, and what you do is going to be an asset now. It used to be a liability. Being different used to kind of be punished, right? Because when we had the cultural sensibility around uniformity and relatability and feeling like somebody is mirroring me, it could be really punished. You could be punished for being yourself. You could be punished for doing your own thing. You could be punished for not being relatable. Now it's different. Now it's what makes me different from you. It's what makes me a complementarian match for you. If we are, that is going to tell you that we are compatible. That is going to be a huge deal here. It's going to help you in your interviews. It's going to help you in your meetings. It's going to help you with your advertising. It's going to help you with your business. It's going to help you with anything that you're trying to do. So if anything looks too cookie cutter, if anything feels too uniform, if anything feels too formulaic, if it feels like it just came out of a coach's catalog, fucking change that now. Fix it up now. Don't go there, because as we go into especially the end of April, going into May, June, July, and beyond, for the rest of this next 14 years, we are in a very different era when it comes to cultural and commercial sensibility. And anything that feels like it's trying too hard to meet or be something is going to be dubbed a poser, right? And you don't want to be getting the poser call out, and you certainly don't want to be getting the that's so 80s or that's so 2010s call out either. So be ready. It's just all about time to bring out some soul. Neptune in Aries is, again, that was also the time where we had a lot of these kind of breakaway moments when it came to economy and culture. Salespeople, all kinds of new businesses popping up, and everything had to be a bit unique. Turn what you bring to the table into a unique personal experience. It's not about inviting people into your brand. It's about inviting people into your brain. And that is going to make a big difference when it comes to being able to connect with people and work with people that are also enjoyable to work with, but also bring in more money for you. You've got to be able to put yourself out there, because people are going to be looking for somebody that has a soul and that has a mind of their own, and that is not working behind a brand or trying to make a brand to fit in amongst all the other brands on the shelf. You don't want to be lost on the shelf, because this isn't going to be about competing for attention. This is going to be about showing what sets you apart. And that's where the big bucks are going to be. So that is what I have got for you all. I hope you found this helpful. Leave a question or comment in the down bar below if you'd like me to go further into this for you, but I figured I would just do a little bit of an intro here. If you do want to ever get a session with me, again, head on over to my website, integrativemysticism.com, or follow the links in the down bar below. And don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. You know I appreciate it. And of course, again, if you're watching this in April, sales on now. See y'all later.